I think I'm tempted to change my rating of season 2 to 4 stars, give this season also 4 stars, and then give season 1 4.5 stars. I watched season 3 of Chucky, and I'm going to go over my spoiler free thoughts, then after that I'll go over my spoiler filled thoughts. After the events of the second season, Chucky takes over the White House and the first family. Jake, Devin, and Lexi must find a way to get to Chucky. Chucky begins facing a strange problem, and Tiffany has a problem of her own involving the police. So the first problem that I have with this season, and I believe season 1 and 2 had problems with this, but I honestly can't remember too well, is the CGI, specifically with like the outside of the White House. It's not that big of a deal, to be 100% honest, but it did stick out quite a bit. Definitely some parts looked pretty CGI and pretty fake, but overall that just didn't impact me too much. And also there was some dialogue that was pretty cringy or a little painful to listen to, or like some cringy moments, but I don't really know if that's actually a problem. It doesn't bother me that much. I think it's a little funny. I did find the last 2 episodes a bit underwhelming, specifically episode 7, called There Will Be Blood. I was definitely expecting a lot more gore and kills. Don't get me wrong, there is quite a bit. I mean, there is like specifically a scene that's pretty much covered in blood, but I was hoping for more, specifically the creative kills. I wanted to see more. It sounds messed up, people dying in creative ways, and I'm sure there were probably a couple moments in that episode, but I was just hoping for more. And the last episode, I was also hoping for a lot of those creative kills, but I found it really underwhelming. But to be fair, I probably went in with the wrong expectations. I did try to lower them a bit when I watched the last episode. It also might be a little goofy saying this, but I did get a little emotional when watching episode 7. I didn't cry or anything, but it was a little sad, and I can't really get into the reason why without spoiling, so I'll get more in depth in the spoiler part of this video. I did find it a pretty interesting idea to have this season take place a majority of the time in the White House. I didn't know how I felt about that originally when I learned that, season 3 took place in the White House, but I think after a while I was okay with that direction. They definitely explored Evan and Jake's relationship a bit more, so, people who are part of the LGBTQ community might enjoy that. I'm not, so it didn't really impact me. It also explored it in a more sexual way, which I wasn't a big fan of, but it did lead to some pretty funny moments. They also tried to explore the relationship of Alexi with another character, but I just don't think the relationship was done very well. It just seemed like the characters didn't have enough time spent with each other for it to be that believable to me. There are also some pretty cool and creative kills, that I enjoyed. I was complaining a little bit about that beforehand on 2 episodes, but like overall there's some really good ones. There's some really cool kills. It's some pretty gory moments, and there are definitely some funny moments. It's Chucky. Obviously there's gonna be funny moments. I also found Tiffany's part of the story pretty interesting, and there were some, gory moments during that part of the plot with Tiffany. And I will say that Andy and Nika's characters weren't used very well in this season. Both of them barely got any screen time, but to be honest, this didn't bother me much. I'm not the biggest fan of Nika, and Andy's also not my favorite character, though I do wish I saw a little bit more of him in this season. Overall, this review might seem like it's leaning more negative. Again, it really sounds like I have a lot of complaints, but all those problems I have with the season are pretty small, and I definitely had a lot of fun watching this season. I just had a lot of dumb fun. It was dumb, it was goofy, it was gory at some moments, it was pretty bloody at some moments, so I definitely will eventually rewatch the show. So overall, I would definitely recommend the season. I had a lot of fun watching it. And before I get into spoilers, I would like to know if any of you have seen the Chucky slash Child's Play documentaries that they have, and if they are worth a watch. Okay, now I'm going to go over my spoiler thoughts, so big spoiler warning. I might be an evil person for saying this, but watching Chucky aging was genuinely sad to watch, even though I was like 98% sure he wasn't going to die. Though, I mean, I guess he didn't technically die, I just mean like die forever. It was also sad watching at the end of episode 7 when it looked like Tiffany might die, even though, I was pretty sure she wasn't going to die, and, she didn't. As I said in the spoiler-free part of the review, I thought the relationship between Lexi and Grant Collins wasn't done very well. Of course, at the beginning, Lexi was just using Grant to get to Chucky, but by the end, I felt like the show was trying to make me believe that they really cared for each other more than I could believe. I think that Lexi and Grant really needed to spend more time with each other to really convince me, because they really didn't spend that much time with each other. And honestly, those are my thoughts. I would love to know your opinion on Chucky Season 3. I have so many other videos coming out soon that I'm really excited to show you, and I would love to know your opinion on this film. And with that, bye.